over at Sweeper Finance, as well as an investment relations advisor at Raise, and then more recently at Manifest, a conglomerate of AI projects, helping to decentralize AI.
Cool. Hey everyone, I'm Alec. I'm the CEO of Tenderize Labs, head chef at Tenderize Labs, head liquid staking protocols. So if you want to liquid stake to your favorite centralized exchange or liquid stake to just a single validator per se, you can do that through our permissionless infrastructure and remain compliant, sleep well at night without worrying about smart contract hacks, all that jazz. So excited to chat today.
All right, thank you. So, on to our first question. It'll be for Taco. So you're extremely active in Web3. So we just heard a lot of titles. So, and our CMO thinks that you might be as big as a household as her. So with your exposure from all layers and different crypto communities, how do you think that they're reacting to this BTC ETF news? And is it more of a positive vibe of finite crypto go mainstream? Or is it more of a negative vibe that those big players are coming in and making into the playground, crypto into the playground?
I was asked this recently, and so I made numbers, of like a 50, 20, 30, 50% just 100% bullish, 20% bullish with a little bit of apprehension, and then 30% feeling that there might be a Trojan horse in it. But what they also then say is that TradeFi is not ready for how the degens will, it will drop 90% on a Tuesday and they're still holding, and they get out at 3% drops. And so overall, now we, mom, dad, we can talk to them at Thanksgiving again. And I think it's overall a really good thing for the market. Out of all of the cycles, this is one of the most different things happening at once, that it's going to be something that no one can predict how well it's going to go.
Totally agree.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, for sure.
Just literally the notion that if you guys have been around here multiple cycles, the meme was that institutions are coming and they're here, and everyone's concerned whether or not that's a good or a bad thing. Obviously it's a fucking great thing. It's been the meme for 10 years. One day institutions are going to come. Today's the day. It's going to be a net positive for the whole space, because as Taco mentioned, you can still talk about this thing in respected financial circles now, and you don't get looked at like you're a Looney Tune. It's a real financial product. Real reputable institutions are dabbling in it and selling it to their customers. I mean, it's going to be a massive net win for the space, and that's my final thought on that.
Do you think we should still be afraid of Kramer?
I don't know, he just needs to keep his mouth shut. That's all I say, I don't know.
Okay. On to our next question.
Awesome.
It'll be for Boss. So being one of the largest Thailand builder communities, have there been any interesting products or new features post BTC ETF? And are more developers thinking of new products and features that's more suited for the next wave of new users that might be non-crypto native?
That's one of the tough questions. But I think for Thai communities, we don't have that much of kind of builders in Thailand. But we sort of consumer market than the builder markets. So far I didn't see much of the upticks or more interest in building DeFi on Bitcoin that much. They will still, the Thai community still focus on building on EVM and stuff like that. I think but I believe this cycle with the Bitcoin ETF coming in, and it's kind of like the only token or only cryptocurrency that have this kind of advantage over the others, where they get a lot of info from institution. I think in the next 3 to 6 months, we would see much of the DeFi adoption in Bitcoin networks. For example, I think that we definitely try to do something on stacks or how to on Bitcoin network for sure. Because of that, if you're thinking about it, right, only certain small number of percentage of the Bitcoin market cap, if that flow into DeFi market, it will be larger than Ethereum DeFi right now. So you think it that way. So I think in like 3 to 6 months from here, we would see that the adoption on L2 Bitcoin should be exported. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the DeFi.
Okay, sounds like an alpha. But quick question, how does like Bitcoin solve the time issue? Like it takes so much time to generate a block.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's if you guys look into Stack, right? They plan to release a new release, like a Nakamoto release, basically trying to reduce the block time on their chain from like minutes to like 5 seconds. So that would increase a lot of throughput and also makes DeFi happens on Bitcoin ATL2 as well. So yeah, pretty bullish on that.
Okay, got it. Thank you. So next question, it will be for Alec.
Okay.
So what new opportunities are there post BTC ETF in DeFi, and is Tenderize Lab doing anything different, and what's the upcoming roadmap?
Yeah, sure. So I think like the Bitcoin ETF approval is just validation for these potentially like sideline funds, and whether they're like, let's just say, okay, if you're a very like hyper-regulated fund, you can probably only touch the ETF. But there are many like mid-market funds or maybe tier 1.5, tier 2 funds that have a lot more flexibility in their investment mandate. So instead of just touching the Bitcoin ETF, they're going to say, okay, look, we think all this capital is going to enter the space because of the ETF approval. How do I get alpha on Bitcoin, right? And then that's when they're going to say, okay, let's look outside of the ETF and start taking on a little bit more risk. And I think the big theme of this kind of like upcoming next trend is going to be building DeFi products that are not KYC, but have very custom risk profiles. So an institution can enter like a liquid staking product, for example, but select only a couple different validators. And we're building something like this at Tenderize where we're partnering with validators and even institutions, and we give them a white label infrastructure for them to pick which validators they want to liquid stake to. So that way they kind of get the benefits of degen style strategies, but they remain compliant. So I think that's going to be the big trend. Kind of like they see the Bitcoin ETF and they want to take on more risk and enter liquid staking, especially.
Okay, so like in the middle. I think it's funny that we think that investing in Bitcoin is like less risky, and while the Web2 people, when you invest in crypto, in Bitcoin, it's like really risky move. So next question for Taco. So we're seeing again many more non-crypto natives asking about Bitcoin and crypto. What sort of product improvements should we build up in this new bull cycle to onboard more users to DeFi, and is there anything interesting that you're involved in?
I think one of our biggest limiting factors is our lexicon. I don't know very many other things where we start to, let me tell you the history of fiat. It started with salt or bones and shiny objects, and then we like work all the way up to the dollar is fake, and then we like, tell someone everything you believe in isn't real, so you should buy Bitcoin. And so as we work on a narrative of it's an alternative financial instrument, I think that we're working on our messaging, at the same time to explain it to our family, at the same time that institutions are working to explain it to their customers. And so we was talking with Simon Dixon, and he was saying that just the memos now are going out. I didn't get the verbiage and stuff like that of how they're going to explain the halvening to their customers in the most basic terms of, they're going to be putting out more work for less token, making the supply scarcer, which will make the price go up. And then if they're going to try to explain market trends, I don't know, or if they're just trying to remove as much technical language from it to make it as a simple and secure piece. I've heard talks of different instruments incorporating, wrapping Bitcoin into it. Where I worry on that is if people will start taking toxic products and wrapping them in Bitcoin to try to keep them afloat. You know, how long can Bitcoin hold the world up before it gets brought down? Is my only worry.
All right. Okay, next for Boss. So one of the main original vision of crypto and DeFi was to offer financial services to those unbanked. And do you think that we're going in a opposite direction now because of BTC ETF?
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I think the BTC ETF is net positive to the communities. I mean, it creates a lot of inflow from institutionals and also like bringing in new cash or new money into the cryptocurrency market. If you think about it this way, right? How much money they need to spend to acquire like a large chunk of the supply of Bitcoin? I think it's nearly impossible for one entity to acquire like 10 to 20% of the whole market cap. So yeah, with that sense, I think it's net positive to the whole community and cryptocurrency market. Apart from that, with the coming in of the cash flow, it also create more new business or new initiative for developers to develop DeFi and you can make business out of that. So yeah, I think it's not a net negative to the community, more like positive overall.
Okay. Wait, how much is MicroStrategy having? All Bitcoin? 1%?
Yeah, probably around.
Yeah,
It was right around 1%.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Well, I know MicroStrategy's up like $4 billion on the position, but they only make 75 million a year. So like, I'm curious if like other companies are just gonna like take this leverage approach, you know, issue debt, use the debt to buy shitload of Bitcoin. It seems that it worked well for Michael.
Well, the other positive too is Bitcoin can now be an asset that they can leverage against as well. And so if they get Bitcoin, they can now borrow against it as well. So I think that, and yeah, they just went over the 1.9 million. So yeah, 1%. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, 1%. It's crazy. So for Alec, so some people are saying that the next big thing in DeFi will be tokenization of TradFi asset. What do you think about the next big DeFi narrative and moving forward?
Yeah, I think RWAs are hot right now because everyone's just like wrapping T-bills. But I feel as though like that narrative may die a bit once on-chain yield picks up, because people are just looking for yield on stables. Providing liquidity on Curve is no longer that lucrative because people aren't trading on-chain this second. But once like the on-chain activity comes back, like you're going to be able to generate more than what T-bills are generating. Like check out like Athena, I think that new like cash and carry stablecoin product, it's spitting out like 40% yield. So if that exists, you don't necessarily need the RWA plays. And I'm not so bullish on the tokenization of real estate because like how do you make a liquid market for those individual products? I don't know. It has to all be kind of like order books and OTC. So I think that the narrative is going to go toward building DeFi products that cater to those institutions that we were talking about earlier. So giving them the ability to silo risk, giving them flexibility to remain compliant, but still play the DeFi game. So it should be on-chain, should be permissionless, but should also allow the currently sidelined capital to actually play.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm like really interested in RWA, but let's talk about that later. So last question. So finally, come back to our event title, Open Information. Financial information is one of the most important categories of open information on chain at the moment. And what is open information or open internet for you? Let's do a clockwise.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry. So yeah, that's I don't think if you talk about it like 10 years ago, we don't really see this kind of open information or public ledgers getting used that much. But today we see a lot of things. We see DeFi, Ethereum. We have some wonderful company who have been building analytics and understand the information on chain, extract value out of it. I think that's kind of things that I'm very bullish on, to have like sort of public ledger and open information access to anyone, and everyone can access to certain data and understand what happened inside the chain. So yeah, that's something I'm very bullish on.
All right.
I think one of the things is generally there's more information out there, which is great. Filtering through what is real and what isn't has now become almost near impossible. But what is really cool is that more people are aware of how financial markets are working, who the dollar really goes to and where it's coming from and who owns it. And people are realizing that the level of permissions for them to transact with their own just regular bank accounts is more than just them, and that it can be stopped at any time. And so the rise of neobanks, you'd asked earlier about debanking or rebanking the debanked, and I think that that's going to be a really big push over the next 5 to 10 years. And I think the fact that governments are going to have to find a way to realize that everything is going to be somewhat more accessible. Obviously, not everything's going to be on chain. Not everything's going to be on an open ledger. Institutions aren't going to allow that, plain and simple. Will they play on them? Yes. And the Chads are not ready for their trading skills. They think that they have this beat because they can beat someone else. When they go fully online, it will be amazing to watch the MEV happen.
Okay, so open information and open internet, I mean, at the end of the day, that's just like freedom in like the 21st century. So like whether we're talking about like financial information and taking over agency of your net worth, and when you have radical agency, you also have radical risk, sure. So it's gonna take like a little bit of education, I think. Teaching people that it's not good to trust these intermediaries. I mean, people have proven that over the last 10 years, they don't really give a shit about privacy. But I think that we need to educate people and tell them that, privacy is a human right, especially with your finances. If someone can look at your financial history, they can craft narratives about you, and really it's a radical invasion of privacy. So the open internet is freedom, it's agency, but along with those, we have to educate people on what it means to have radical agency and to take control of your own life.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. Like, education is really a big thing that people need to realize. Might take like a black swan instant for them to realize that this is really important for them.
Well, I feel like, sorry to interrupt, but like all these data breaches are black swan incidents, but now we're just like used to them, and we ignore the fact that it's like, hey, my social security number got leaked again. Who gives a shit? Like, we should care, and we shouldn't stand for that as the status quo. And we have to get in front of this education curve and teach people that, hey, you got to respect your privacy, you respect your peers' privacy, and you got to take some ownership of your digital footprint.
If it gets even gone to another, the worse extent, like 23andMe, not just our social security number, but our genetic information has been now leaked, and where's the hubbubaloo about that? And I know there's a ton of projects working to bring data ownership on chain, and this goes a little bit outside of BTC ETFs, but I love what we're working really hard on like OpenAI, like not OpenAI, but decentralized AI. That's one of the next pieces, and so I think there's some really cool stuff there. Yeah, you're on it.
Yeah, this is so outside of Bitcoin ETF. Like provable computation is going to be huge too, because like as you're entering this like AI age, like we even saw like the strange stuff that was happening with Google's AI product. Like, if you ask AI a question, you need to know that the information that you were given was computed in a certain way, and that there wasn't some middleman who intercepted the packet and basically said, oh, Alec myself is asking for X, Y, or Z. I'm going to present him with my opinion of what that is. And when you have like provable computation, you can run an AI regression, you can ask a large language model a question, you can get a response, and you get a little receipt that says, this is accurate and hasn't been tampered with. And that's where we need to go as like a society. We can't just keep trusting these weird black boxes.
Yeah, totally agree on that. So this will be our first session. Let's wrap it up. Thank you guys for joining for post BTC ETF post BTC ETF. Thank you the speakers, and thank you guys for joining. Our next session will be at 1, which is in 5 minutes. So you guys feel free to enjoy the drinks.
Some pastries, snacks, food. So feel free. It's already
Yes.
like 1, so haven't had
Keep
lunch.
talking about like OpenAI.
Thanks, Red. Yeah,
Thank you, everyone.
over here. Happy networking, guys.
Can we do a little picture?